Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is my last vlog before we get started at the Olympics. As you can see, I am at the Olympics already. Today is my third day of training and tomorrow is the opening ceremony and our pre-event training for the mixed team. So we get into things tomorrow. So this will be my last vlog and the next vlog you see will be my Olympic vlog. But yeah, I wanted to do a wee Q&A with you guys, see if you had any questions or anything. It's been about a year since we did the last one. So let's get started. The first question is, how do you prepare yourself before you set off to the Olympic Games? If you watch my vlogs, you'll see a lot of that. We do lots of training, I suppose. We've done our training, we've done all of our competitions and everything, so all of that kind of stuff's prepped. My bags, like we did kitting out, and my bag got packed early the week we left, so all of that stuff was all ready. I wrote a list a while ago and had it like cross-checked with the physio and with my dad to make sure that I hadn't forgotten anything on the list, and then I just followed the list to make sure I had everything off the list. Yeah, I made sure that I like saw my friends and my family before I left. But yeah, I mean, it's just about practice. Like, I mean, competitions and stuff are all practice for this, and you learn over the years like what you need to take and things like that, so it's all in the prep. Next question is, I want to ask which is the most difficult position in 3 positions. That's very individual. A lot of people find standing very hard because it's, you know, got the biggest like it's kind of got the biggest sway, I suppose. Lots of people find kneeling very difficult. Kneeling is a very technical position, especially if you're a beginner. It can take a long time to kind of understand kneeling, I suppose. There's a kind of feeling to kneeling that you won't really get until you've felt it once, and then it can take you a while to then find that again. So kneeling can be a real struggle for a lot of people. It's a very technical one. Personally, I find prone probably the hardest. I find it difficult on my shoulders. I find getting in and out of the position not the easiest. I'm not very good at getting up and down off the floor. So for me, I find prone the hardest position to be in. Maybe not like the hardest to shoot, like once I'm in the position, I'm pretty good at prone. But yeah, I think it's quite individual. Next question is, how nervous are you about the Olympics? I'm quite nervous about the Olympics, yes, as you might expect. I feel a lot less nervous this time around. This sort of stage, I guess, for the Tokyo Olympics, I was very nervous and very stressed. This time around, I'm significantly less nervous and stressed. But I am still a bit nervous, as you might expect. It is the Olympics. Olga has asked, will you do some yoga while in Paris? Almost certainly. I do yoga quite a lot. I haven't done a huge amount over the last sort of year and a half or so because I've had a problem with my hip. But I still do quite a lot of yoga poses as stretches. I haven't done very many classes, but I certainly will do some yoga while I'm here, possibly after I've finished. I've got a question here. What advice would you give to the boyfriend of a first-time Olympian in 2024? I would say be as supportive as you can, listen to he or she or they. Your Olympian will probably be quite stressed and potentially not realise how stressed they are, so I would say if you can give them some leeway that you might not otherwise give them if they're in a funny mood and you don't understand, and if you ask them and they say they're fine, and yeah, I would maybe just give them a wee bit more, like, you know, compassion than you might otherwise at different times of year. Supportive is always helpful. Taking as many decisions off of their plate as well. Decision fatigue is a real thing. It takes an awful lot of energy, I guess, to make decisions, even little decisions like what are we having for dinner today or things like that. So as many decisions you can take off of their plate, the better. Be enthusiastic, I suppose. That's always, especially if your other half, I guess from my point of view, I'm the Olympian. If the Olympian's other half is not a sports person, it's quite easy if you are in sport and if you're around other people who are in sport, it's quite easy to forget how amazing it all is, because it becomes your normal. So I guess like remind your Olympian of how amazing they are every now and again, and how amazing it is to be an Olympian. They will need reminding. The next question is, what's your favourite event? Loaded question. So I will have 3 events at this Games. I will have mixed team with Mike, I will have individual air rifle, and I will have individual 3 positions. My favourite event, I toss up between the two. I would consider mixed team and air rifle to be the same event because it's very similar in terms of its shooting style. I know it's 2 separate events, but like how you shoot it and the sort of method is exactly the same. So I would consider air rifle and 3P to be like my 2 events, I suppose. I really love air rifle for how mindful it is and how precise it is, and it's really technical, and I feel like I can really like get into it as an event, as a technique, I guess. With 3P, I feel like with 3P you need a bit more kind of intuition and pizzazz, I guess. You need a bit more sort of, this is going to sound really bad, this is going to come across wrong, but like I feel like you need a bit more personality for 3P, or you can show your personality a bit more in 3P. It's less like precise and robotic. I really enjoy both aspects. Air rifle's not been going very well recently for me. I get it in bits and pieces, and when it's going well I absolutely love it. So I honestly, do you know what, I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. I don't think I can choose. I feel like that's asking to choose between your favourite children. So I'm going to say both of them. My next question is, do you have a mental coach? Yes, we have actually 3 psychologists for the British team at the moment. Jess is my psychologist that I work with. She is also the main psychologist for Team GB, so she's based up in Paris at the moment, and she'll come down for my events. And then we have Ollie, who's the other Team GB, the British shooting psychologist, and he's here to kind of cover the gaps when Jess isn't available. And then we also have Paul, who is our psychologist in Tokyo, and he's here working with the other 2 girls, Amber and Lucy. He's here working with them. He works with them privately, so he's here as well. So we actually have multiple mental coaches. But yes, I've been working with Jess since Tokyo, and she is a miracle worker. So what do you think will be the minimal score for the final? Good question. For air rifle, I think it will be, for women, I think it will be 630.5-ish. It could be higher than that and it could be lower than that, which I realise is, obvious, but, yeah, I would say like 630. That seems like a reasonably low score for some of the World Cups that have been going on this year, but Olympics can be a bit funny like that. For 3P, it depends how windy it is, partly, but I would say, based on the last 2 days of training, I would say 591. 591 will make the final. Next question. Do you prefer rifle front, rear, or balanced in terms of its heaviness? And is it the same in air rifle and small bore? I think I have them both fairly balanced. There is something to be said for both. If you have it a bit front heavy, theoretically the gun doesn't, the kind of foresight doesn't sway as much across the target. But if you have it too front heavy, it becomes a pendulum and it'll swing, and it's like a bigger, slower movement, but it's harder to control. If you have it rear heavy, essentially that then means that the front is too light and it'll kind of do this and you won't be able to control it either. I prefer it fairly balanced, and yes, it is the same, pretty much the same between the two. It's different about where you put the weights, because obviously in small bore you have a butt hook that you're not allowed to have in air rifle, so where you sort of position those weights to balance the gun is different, but in general the weight's about the same. My next question. On point 22, do you use different types of ammunition in cold or warm weather? No, I don't, but a lot of people will use different speeds of ammo depending on whether it's windy or not. I think if I'm remembering correctly, people tend to say that faster ammo doesn't go quite so well in the wind, but again, I think that's very individual, individual to the batch, to the make, and to the rifle. I have tested ammunition that is tested well on my gun at the test factory, and then we've shot it outside to make sure that it works, but hot and warm weather doesn't seem to make too much of a difference for me. Having said that, I do know that there is biathlon special ammunition, and I don't know if that's because in biathlon it's magazine fed, or if that's because in biathlon it's freezing, or it could be a bit of both. So I'm actually not sure if there's a difference, but me personally, I just have one batch of ammo that is tested for my gun that I know works. My next question is, are you ready? Yes I am. I feel good. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to have all of this over and done with so I can stop stressing. I'm ready to try and enjoy my experience and things, so yes, I am ready. My next question was whether you could privately message me about information on air rifle competition shooting. You can privately message me, although I probably won't reply. I'm not a coach. I don't really want to be a coach. I think there are really good resources out there for air rifle shooting. Heinz Rinkmeyer and Gabby Bowman's book is probably the best one. There's an awful lot of air rifle information in that book that's great. Personally, I don't believe in like beginners versus sort of pros. I think the pro people just do the basics better. So I think you just start with the basics and work on them. My next question. How to control the last shot pressure? That is a very good question. You need to know what your process is to fire one good shot, and then you need to learn how to do that process all the time, regardless of what distractions might be there or what, oh well, pressure is a distraction, so I guess, yeah, what distractions are there, but yes. You just do your process again, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but the more you do it, the slightly easier it gets. But it really is just to do your process and focus on your process. Which leads me on to my next question, which is, what do you focus for in shooting? I focus on my process. I've learned what the process looks like to fire one really good shot, and I work to do that process for every shot. It doesn't happen, don't get me wrong, I don't fire 60 perfect shots in a row. But that is the goal. My next question, do you shooters, for want of a better word, have to lower your heart rate before you shoot? That's sort of two questions in one. Yes, we are called shooters. I realise that might be a bit confusing if you're not in the sport. The collective word for people who compete in shooting is shooters. And yes, you kind of have to lower your heart rate before you shoot. It's not necessarily before you shoot your match, but before each shot. But it's more about being aware of your heart rate, and if it is getting higher, then doing your best to lower it. That's really where the sort of breathing techniques come in. But a lot of the breathing, you sort of put it in your process, so where you take your breaths and stuff helps you to get your heart rate like in the right kind of rhythm for each shot, I suppose. Not sure if that makes sense. But yes, if your heart rate is skyrocketed because you're nervous because you're in a final, breathing helps to bring it back down, and it does make it easier. I have a question on books. Have I read any Brandon Sanderson novels? Yes, I have. I read the first Mistborn. I'm currently reading the second Mistborn. I'm assuming that's in relation to the bookshelf that was behind me when I asked for these questions. As you can tell, I'm a bit of a fantasy nerd. I have many Brandon Sanderson novels, and I am currently working my way through my very extensive to-be-read list. Holly, my best friend, has asked me if I'm going to convert to biathlon after Paris. And I think she and I both know that will never happen. I'm very much going to go down and see her and get on some roller skis and things like that. But I think given I wasn't on skis before I could walk, I don't think that will ever be a biathlete, unfortunately. My next question is, what are you doing to prepare for the Olympics? Any advice for others wanting to improve? I'm just doing my normal training. I'm trying not to do anything too differently. Whatever I've been doing has been working, so just do that. Advice for others wanting to improve: work on your basics. Your basic skills will never be perfect, so continue to work on improving those basic skills. That's your kind of 90%. We talk about sort of 1%ers. Your 1%ers aren't going to make the blindest bit of difference if your 90% isn't at 90%, I suppose. So yeah, work on your basics. How do you feel coming into the Paris Olympics compared to the Tokyo Olympics? A lot better. I feel a lot less stressed, a lot more calm. It's a nicer environment, I think, because obviously we don't have COVID this time. I've got a pairs partner. Mike's very enthusiastic about this being his first games, and it's really rubbing off. So in general, I feel a lot happier this time around. Does Juan still have to dye his hair blue if you win a medal? I'm going to assume that's from one of my friends at uni. We made a bet when I was still at uni, when I knew I was going to be going to the Olympics. for Tokyo that my friend Juan had to dye his hair blue if I won a medal. And the bet still stands. So yes, if I win a medal, Juan does have to dye his hair blue. My next question, how long have you been playing this sport and how old are you? I am 28 years old and I have been competing for 10 years and I have been shooting at least Olympic disciplines for 11 years. However, I did shoot prone a little bit at school briefly before that. When you get nervous, what do you do to stay calm? I actually don't stay calm. I find that fairly impossible. It's just really about managing your nerves rather than about not getting nervous. So breathing techniques are always really helpful. I've been working with my psychologist, Jess, around like if I've got any self-talk that's maybe a wee bit negative, doing it in a funny voice to kind of make myself laugh at it, I suppose. But yeah, breathing techniques is the main one. What are you most excited about in Paris 24? The prospect of winning, I suppose. Yeah, I think that's probably the thing that's making me most excited. There's lots of very cool things around. There's lots of very cool things to be excited about, but yes, I think I'm most excited about the prospect of potentially winning a medal. Who's coming to watch you shoot? My mum and my boyfriend are coming. They're coming tomorrow, so they will be here for the air rifle events. And then my best friend Holly is also coming in addition to them, for the 3P event. So I'll have 2 for the air rifle events and 3 for the 3P events. What's our Olympic shooting team like as a group? It's good, yeah. We don't, me and Mike as the rifle bit of the group don't see a huge amount of the shotgun shooters, especially during the day. We'll see them at dinner times and things. But just like because of the way schedules work, we don't see a huge amount of the shotgun shooters. And because there's trap and skeet, like Amber comes out much later, she's the only skeet shooter, she comes out much later, so she pretty much won't see the trap guys really. But yeah, no, I think it's a really good group. How do you keep your love of shooting whilst also pushing yourself to be the world's best? That is actually a really good question, and I feel like that's come from somebody who has potentially got some experience of being an athlete. It's hard to keep loving your sport when it's your like be all and end all, I suppose. But at the same time, I used to say a lot when I was younger, like I'll stop doing it when I stop enjoying it. Because why would you keep doing something if you don't enjoy it? And if it's your own choice, like there's aspects to sport that I don't love. I don't love the traveling all the time. It's getting a bit old. I miss my boyfriend when I go away. I miss some of the opportunities that I have like at home to be with friends or family when I'm going away all the time. But I also get to do this, and like you kind of have to balance the two, I suppose. I get to travel the world and see some cool things. I get to spend like my whole life with my dad, which I realise when he's watching this is going to be like, oh, lucky you. But I love spending my time with my dad. He's my best friend, and I like really do appreciate all of the opportunity I've had to spend this much time with him. Obviously, I enjoy shooting, I enjoy training, I enjoy all the people I get to meet when doing this sport, I enjoy winning. So yeah, it's kind of about balancing the good bits and the bad bits of the sport. As soon as the bad bits start outweighing the good, that's when you should stop, because why you can keep doing it? What are you doing before a competition? Do you have any special thing that you do? No, to be honest, I actually don't. It depends what I've been doing at home. If I'm reading my book, then I just read my book. If I've been watching a TV program, I usually just watch that. Yeah, I don't really have much of a special thing. Some of you might have seen me with Ducky on my lap, making Ducky dance. That's not necessarily a special thing that I do, but I absolutely love Ducky. He entertains me, he makes me laugh, and it helps with my nerves. So if you do see me with Ducky, that's probably that. My sister's asked me about whether she can borrow my new Pat McGrath eye makeup palette. She doesn't care about the Olympics, and she also wants to know, my niece also wants to know what I'm bringing her back from France. I will be bringing my niece back a mascot. She's only 6 months old, she won't care, but you know, later in life, she might. I've been asked about how to use a duplex Vario. I honestly don't know, I can't remember. I have used one, but my dad set it up for me before. If you want information on that, I'm pretty sure Heinz has got videos on that, so I would maybe go and check those out on that one. Somebody is asking for advice on how to become the best in 10 metre rifle shooting. Work on your basics. Self-awareness is a really important thing, and discipline is probably my main tips for how to be better at air rifle shooting. Advice on how to become the best is probably, I would ask the Chinese shooters. They seem to have that down. No, but in all honesty, like, I don't think you can train to be the best. You can just train to be your best, I suppose. And if your best happens to be better than everybody else on that specific day, then great, but it won't happen every time. I don't think we could have a categorically best athlete in our sport. I don't think that's how our sport works. I think it's a free-for-all on any given day. Maybe not the entire field, but, you know, in my discipline, there's maybe 10 to 15 women who are capable of winning on any given day. And it just depends who shows up. Tips for kneeling for a beginner. I would say my biggest tip for kneeling is it's not what you think. You look at kneeling and you think tripod, actually think bipod. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it is much easier to shoot with no weight through your right knee if you're a right-handed shooter, and actually balancing between your left foot and the foot that's on the kneeling roll. Actually, when your weight goes forward onto that right knee, the weight of the gun comes forward and then it becomes harder to balance. So that's my top tip for kneeling. Not what you think. Somebody's asked if I could sell them my rifle after the Olympics. I'm sorry to say, no, I will not be selling you my rifle after the Olympics. I will be keeping it because I might need it again. Also, I don't think I can sell it outside of the UK. Which medal are you expecting from Paris Olympics? I'm not necessarily expecting any medal from Paris. I would very much like a gold one or a silver one, but I don't think I could be expecting anything because you never know what's going to happen on the day. What classes am I entered for in the Olympics? I think I said this already, but I'm entered in the 10 metre rifle mixed team with Mike, the 10 metre rifle women's for air rifle, and the 50 metre 3 positions women's as well. I've got a question here. I think a lot about my trigger squeeze and I mess my shot even through the centre of hold. Is there any good tips? If you're really struggling with triggering, my top tip, and I found this out by accident, I had a really bad wrist back in 2016. My wrist, I had an arthritis flare up in my wrist and I couldn't use it, so I couldn't shoot properly for a few weeks, closer to a month maybe. So eventually I got bored of not shooting, so I put my rifle put the front end on a kneeling roll and aimed it at the target, and I just sat behind it instead of like holding it, so basically a bench. And I worked really hard on my triggering for a few weeks. And that was the only thing I concentrated on, was triggering, because it was the only thing I could concentrate on. So that's maybe a good tip, possibly. The other one is SCAT can help with that. The hold numbers, the number on the end, I think it's R, but don't quote me on that, is your sort of triggering number. Try and get that as low as you can. What is your pre-match routine? I don't really have a pre-match routine. I never really developed one because I wanted to be an adaptable athlete. Because, you know, things happen all the time and you never know. So I never really developed a pre-match routine. I've got things that I need to do before a match, but it's not necessarily in like a certain order or anything. So I don't really have one. What inner muscles do you use to stabilize your center holding? Again, that's going to be super individual to each person. And for me has changed over the years. So at the moment, I'm using a wee bit more of my sort of inner core muscles, and that's because after I had my surgery back in September last year, and actually because of all the stuff that was led up to that surgery, my core is not very strong anymore, so I'm like consciously using more of that muscle than I perhaps like used to. It used to kind of just be a bit automatic. Other thing, I need to make sure, for standing, I guess, I need to make sure that my left bicep is relaxed and that my right shoulder is relaxed. But some people are quite like, will kind of hold the gun, so it's really individual, I'm afraid. How do you cope with a bad practice session before a competition? If it's just the one bad practice session, then we kind of just write it off and go, okay, well, today just wasn't my day, it does happen. If it's multiple bad practice sessions, then I tend to get a wee bit stressed. But when we get to when we get to a competition, there's always training there. So I always try and make sure training happens then. if training at the competition, like if my pre-event, for example, if my pre-event didn't go very well, I will quite often be like, well, that's actually okay. Sometimes when pre-event goes really well, then the next day is a bit harder. So a bad pre-event's not the end of the world. It's kind of just reassuring yourself, like, you know your process, you know how to shoot well, it's just not your day. We can figure it out, it'll be okay, things like that. Work on your process, remember your process. That's it, really. Oh, this is a good question. Any tips for period pain while shooting? Honestly, I was on the pill for so long that I didn't have periods for a long time. And then when I came off the pill, and actually I guess I went on the pill because of painful periods, so either side, I found it really difficult to shoot while I had period pains, because like all of the positions, like kneeling's not particularly comfortable for obvious reasons. Prone and standing are both, then you're like stretched like opposite way. So like if you don't know what period cramps feel like, you tend to want to like kind of crunch up, and standing and prone are both like the opposite of that. So it's not very comfortable. I tended, if I had really bad cramps, to just not shoot, to be honest, or to shoot kneeling. Obviously, if that happens on a competition day, it's not ideal, and that's where painkillers can come in. Things like ibuprofen can help a little bit. But yeah, that's not to say that I advocate going on the pill, just FYI, I'm not a doctor, I'm not putting that out there. But yes, I actually would just not shoot if you can avoid it while you've got period pains. One day of training is not going to kill you, maybe 2 days. If you can, hot water bottles and stuff can help ease cramping. Being kind to yourself. So if you are going to go and train, if you train for half an hour and then you start getting sore, take a break. Just go off, have something to drink, rehydrate, maybe use a hot water bottle if you need to take some painkillers, but yeah, just be nice to yourself, or just don't. Can I get one of your Olympic pins from you? If you are at the games, yes, come and find me and ask me for a pin, and if I have any left, I will give you one. When did I start shooting? I started shooting air rifle in 2013. I think possibly 2012, right at the end of 2012 after the Olympics in London, but 2013 essentially. And I started shooting prone 2010. I started shooting prone at school, and then I took up 3P properly. So with the kneeling and standing, I took up 3P in 2015, end of 2015. So yeah, that's how long. That's all my questions. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope they answered all of your questions. As always, if you have any more questions, you can pop them in the comments and I will do my best to get back to you in a reasonably timely fashion. However, that's probably until after the games at this point. But yeah, thank you so much for sending them in. I really enjoyed reading some of your questions and answering them for you. Yeah, I will now not be posting any vlogs until after the games. So if you want to be notified when that vlog does go up, you can subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you want to get some updates, I'll be putting some stuff on Instagram and TikTok throughout the games, so you can go and follow me there. It's minimac_400, so you can follow me there and find some more updates. If you want to know anything British shooting, I've got Clubhouse. You'll find that on the British Shooting website. There's the Paris 24 app. Yeah, there's tons of places. So yeah, I really hope everybody enjoys the games. I hope you all watch lots of sport. I hope to see you after the games and be happy and excited and tell you all the great things that have happened. I hope I don't see you in a week's time in floods of tears like last time, but you never know, things happen. But yes, thank you all again. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.